Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with Total War Warhammer 3 in the Immortal Empires, and today we're checking out Norsca. Yeah, who would have thought? So Norsca is actually getting a relatively small update, and it's just to make them, well, less soul-sucking. That's pretty much the only way I can say it. They've tried to update Norsca a little bit, just to give it a bit more flavor, fix some very glaring issues in an effort to allow them to be more playable until an eventual proper rework comes out. So I have to be very, very clear, this is not a rework, but rather a small update. And a lot of the stuff is going to remain the same. Norsca's mechanics, in general, aren't too bad. It was just a few things that needed to get changed, just to allow them to, well, expand and not be stuck to just ports, because that was a silly mechanic anyway. So, with all that being said, let's just jump right in and talk about these small, yet very, very helpful updates coming to a very much hated race. We'll quickly talk about the faction effects and lord effects for both legendary lords. So obviously for Wulfric we've got Gift of Tongues, that's his faction effect, and upkeep is reduced by minus 15% for Marauder units, very, very useful, and melee attack plus 15 for Mammoth units. Now, I know most of you guys do know this, but a lot of people have avoided Norsca purely because of how the fan base has spoken about, well, how bad the race generally was. It's good to mention it now so people who've never played it before but are interested in checking out Norsca are aware. And his own character trait, Born Warrior, has the following benefits: reinforcement range plus 30% for Lord's Army, quite helpful especially with Norsca. Attribute, Siege Attacker, again, very helpful if you're going to be attacking loads of locations, but you will be running a lot of mammoths, and causes fear for Lord's Army. Other than that, obviously, we do have his unique Lord skill line, which hasn't really changed as far as I can see, but it's still very, very good. Honestly, his skills and every skill with Norsca, with the legendary lords and all that type of stuff, isn't bad. It was just literally a mechanical issue that made Norsca so unlikable, so you should see reason to use that now. So we're moving on to Frog now, and he's staying in the exact same location. Wulfric was moved, but it's kind of unnoticeable in all honesty. But Frog has the Lord of the Monstrous Horde faction effects, which has the following benefits: upkeep minus 20% for Norscan Trolls and Norscan Ice Troll units. Yeah, it's not too bad. And physical resistance, 15% for Norscan Trolls and Norscan Ice Troll units. Again, not too bad, but I'm not really a big fan of Trolls. That really depends on the player, though. His own unique trait is known as Monstrous Ruler, which has the following benefits: control plus 1 for local province. All units in Frog's army are immune to all attrition, very, very useful. Chaos Undivided Corruption plus 2 for local province, which I feel would be quite good if you do a co-op with a friend, especially if they're playing Chaos Warriors, because corruption kind of helps them recruit. And Attribute, Siege Attacker. Again, with their own unique skill line, everything feels exactly the same, and that's not too bad because his skill line is actually pretty good. Same thing like I said about Wulfric, it's nothing too much of an issue there. So yeah, let's move on to the actual changes now. Alright, so first up we have a proper set of commandments, and this is really important considering that you know, it does help get some more stability. So what you can do is spread more undivided corruption and remove other types of corruption, which kind of helps if you're going against the Skaven, or if you just want to get rid of the blue, pink, purple, or red tints. You can get extra growth and construction cost reduction, which is obviously, again, useful. Another one which slows down enemies attacking your regions. It just removes a bit of their campaign movement range, and since you don't have defenses, it's going to be quite helpful because, you know, higher difficulties, they dogpile on you. And then the last one, it reduces recruitment cost and increases recruitment capacity. This is a godsend, this type of stuff, because you can use it in all settlements. We'll be talking about that a little bit later. And it just really does help out a little bit more to make them feel like they're an actual faction and not a bunch of monkeys. It still doesn't fix any of the current issues with Norsca, but it does actually help out quite a bit, and I think that's a very important thing to note. There have been a few changes when it comes to dedication. The mechanic stays the same, but it's objectively a lot better. So if we go around the section for the Serpent, for this section, it starts off with reducing upkeep for all armies and income from all buildings faction-wide. Then it continues to be even stronger and stronger, which it honestly just makes it all lot better, as the Norscan economy isn't great, so it's a big benefit. There's also Lord Recruit rank plus 5, and you can get a Soneshi Sorcerer Adventurer 2, which also does have access to the Lore of Sinesh, so it's a way to kind of bridge the gap a bit. If we look to the section regarding the Crow, you again get income from all buildings faction-wide, and it's very needed. I can't stress that enough. Increased casualty replenishment rates for all armies, again very useful, especially if you're going to be going with big hordes of warriors. Wound recovery time for all characters, which can get beneficial if you do make a few mistakes like I do, yep. And you will also get access to an Exalted Great Unclean One in your Lord recruitment pool, which is super cool, because you get access to the Law of Nurgle. It's also a Great Unclean One. Who doesn't like that, you know? If we look towards the Hound, you can get access to income from all buildings faction-wide once again, increased weapon strength for melee infantry units, which is very useful, plus if you use your outpost you can get some like Cornate Warriors and stuff like that, so take advantage of that. Then unit experience gain per turn for all armies, and finally an Exalted Champion of Khorne. Again, just to have a bit more fun there, and I think that's all pretty cool, just to... You know, if you're dedicating, you might as well get some sort of benefit from it, and that type of stuff, it kind of gives us hints of what we might see in the future when a Norsca DLC does come. And lastly, we have the Eagle, probably the one that I don't like the most. So this gives you increased income from all buildings faction-wide once again, better winds of magic, an increased research rate, which is probably why I don't like it, because the tech tree for Norsca is still very, very small. And finally, a Lord of Change, and that gives you access to the Law of Tzeentch. This is actually the Maze Keeper that we've known, but just a little bit updated, and I think that works out quite well. All in all, the updates just are better overall. We shouldn't have expected any radical changes coming to Norsca, because this isn't a DLC or patch dedicated to them, but in the future, we might see something. So this isn't something too major, but it's something that can heavily praise. You might remember the Iceforged Legion, which was a special Hell Cannon. Well, now it's been turned into a proper Regiment of Renown, rather than just unlocking it for other means, which means that you can use it and you don't have to jump through hoops for it, essentially, and it just is kind of nice to have a big artillery piece alongside your Norskans, should you so need it, and sometimes you kind of do need it. I will warn you in advance that until you start getting the benefits from the increased income, their economy isn't much better, so as you're playing, it still won't be as viable to have loads of different armies at the very beginning, and it's still the same issue that you might notice with Norsca, where loads of factions will start declaring war on you. Sigvald kind of just takes over for the Angles, which just randomly want to come down to Norsca sometimes, and obviously as you start working through your way to Norsca, there's all the other tribes inside there which will cause some problems. Just a little bit of a heads up. Anyways, as you can see on screen right now, we have the most important change coming to Norsca, that we can capture any settlement. And it's so important because this actually makes Norsca enjoyable. This means that you can take on 4 provinces, you don't have to do the usual stuff of just going to the stupid ports and just keeping ports. This means that you can get everything, you can get access to buildings everywhere, you can build wherever you want, and this just dramatically makes Norsca so much more fun that I've been enjoying a campaign just kind of relaxing. I know it sounds weird even when I say it, but yeah, Norsca is enjoyable now. So if you've been waiting, and yes, you might still be waiting for a rework, this actually feels a lot different. Nothing's really changed for the tech tree, but then again, that was kind of expected. What we do have is some new tech focusing around Grand Cafe, which are good bonuses, and there's an extra control there, which is obviously always very, very helpful. It's a bit of a shame we didn't get a tech against the Ogres, because yeah, they're a neutral faction and all that type of stuff, but considering that we are fighting against like the Tomb Kings, the Dark Elves, Vampire Council, we get bonuses against them, it would have been nice just to have a reason to go and attack the Mountains of Morn. I don't know, maybe that's just me. However, the tech is pretty good overall, and it should make you quite potent versus Grand Cafe, that's for sure. The tech tree definitely needs a bit of a rework, but that should come when a Norscan rework does come, so yeah, I guess we just have to wait a little bit. So interestingly enough, all the special Norscan characters when you're doing versus AI, I'm not too sure if this is in ranked, I doubt it, they all become heroes, even the Lord options like the Great Unclean One, which is a bit strange, but hey. Anyways, the characters themselves are quite good. They're pretty much what you expect from, well, some things that we've seen already in the base game and some things that we're going to see with the Champions of Chaos, like, for example, the Cornate Champion, which looks really, really cool. So you're getting to see the assets a little bit earlier, I guess. And I think it's nice that you get these options because it definitely allows you to theme and it makes you feel like you're dedicating to a god. In the future, when we do get a DLC and a rework, it would be nice that if we do dedicate to a god, that we'd be able to get the units too, because it just kind of fits with everything. But the Norscan champion, the Cornate one, is actually quite strong, as you can imagine. You know, he's also mounted on a Juggernaut, so the boy likes to do his damage, and you will see a lot of use to him. It really just depends on what you dedicate to. Then, obviously, we know this character already because, well, he's been here since, what, Game 1? However, I think he's been recolored. I'm not too sure. It's been a while since I've played Norsca, like, very early into the lifespan of Game 2, when they finally got released, and then I was like, I'm not going to play them again until they get fixed. Little did we know we had to wait years, but hey. This also gives us a character with the Law of Tzeentch, and I really, really like the Law of Tzeentch. It's absolutely devastating, so it's just kind of nice to have the option there. And, I mean, it's a Flying Lord with spells. What's not to like, right? Plus, we do know that the spells are a little bit strong at the moment, so you might as well take advantage of that before it gets eventually nerfed. Then we've got the Sineshi Sorcerer, and he's mounted on a Chaos Dragon. Unfortunately, when you got him in custom battles, you can't take him off the mount, but he's got access to the Law of Sinesh. He looks freaking cool too, like, I love the armor look there. It just looks so nice, and it's so very much Sineshi, so it's just kind of nice. Like, yes, there's an obvious bias from me, but I think you guys know me by now, right? So, yeah, Law of Sinesh is pretty good. You've got access to a few different things. You've also got access to the Fire Breath from the Dragon. So, yeah, you've got a pretty big amount of damage coming from this guy. And lastly, we've got the Exalted Great Unclean One. There's really not too much to talk about here. He's got access to the Law of Nurgle. And, well, if you've been using them in the base game when playing Realm of Chaos and all that type of stuff, then you know exactly how they work. So, yeah. It's a good Law of Magic, so yeah, and he's very, very tanky. Well, I mean, he's a Great Unclean One, what do you expect? Alright, so what I want to do now is talk about my thoughts on Norsca, because, yes, over the years I've been very vocal about how I've disliked Norsca, because, yeah, the mechanics just were weird, let's just say that, right? And yes, I'm using this map again because this is the best flat map I've been able to find, and I just kind of like it. Plus, versus Nurgle, you know. Anyways, the slight changes that Norsca has had with this patch makes them enjoyable, which is weird. Some things still need to change, and we definitely need a proper rework. I mean, trolls for Norsca are just complete hot garbage, and nobody's going to make me think otherwise, because, wow, they just suck so bad, and you'll see a reason why here. But I've honestly had a lot more fun. I've been able to play a campaign. I managed to get to a turn, I think it was around 160-ish or so, and being able to take loads of locations and not be bogged down to just certain ones is cool. Obviously, it does slow you down if you want to start dedicating, but the dedicating itself is quite fast if you know how to handle it, so it's not that bad, really. Yes, it doesn't solve all the issues, but really, if we look at it, the Norsca roster wasn't bad at all. It definitely needs a few more bits of flavor, but it's definitely possible to open up Immortal Empires and have some fun without feeling like, yes, there's a lot of stuff missing, because it was just the issues that they had that got fixed that just kind of fixes it all up. I think this is a great step in the right direction. I think that this is something that Creative Assembly should do more often. If a race does need a rework, but right now can't really get one, but they can dedicate some development time to just give them a few fixes here and there without drastically changing anything, because this doesn't really change much. It just adds the ability to be able to colonize, which we've kind of been doing with like mods and so on. It makes it so much more worth it to finally just go, all right, yeah, I'm going to play Norsca. Yeah, I'm going to have a full campaign. I'm going to enjoy myself. Because let's be honest, this was a DLC that people paid for. Well, a lot of people got free because it was the pre-order incentive for Warhammer 2. But for those who paid for it and then just got nothing from it, you know what I mean? It's just one of those things. But I definitely think this is a great step in the right direction for Norsca and just the game in general. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens to them in the future. But what do you think about the changes coming to Norsca? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion. I'm really curious to see what you guys think. Mostly because, again, it's Norsca.